This content is the creative work of Channels Without Borders, all rights reserved 2025. Visit channelswithoutborders.com. Feel free to share this with friends. More information and links are in the description.
See, like the furious energy it is.
And you notice how well that's worked for you.
No, it has worked well, punishing me myself.
Back to this word of confusion. Make it very simple. Wherever there is confusion, or the experience or the illusion of confusion, it is where there's a belief that there's a separate you. And simply be aware that that's what's going on. When you are experiencing a separate you, you're not in the now. You're somewhere in the mind, holding on to an illusion that isn't true. Be constantly aware of that. Simplicity is there's just now and there's no you. So notice when you're making it confusing, when you're believing that there is a separate you. Notice it. You can't make yourself change because there is no you there to force that to happen. There's no mind that can choose that. There's simply the awareness that, oh, craziness at work. Kind of like the signs on the side of the road, men at work ahead. You could put a sign out in front of yourself, craziness at work. And you simply notice that, oh, craziness is at work here. And then what can you do? You can ask yourself the question, but who is noticing this? Yes, there's this thinking, this believing that there's a separate character, separate me, separate from God. At the same time, there is experiencing going on. There is awareness going on. Where does that awareness sit? Is the one who's experiencing fear and pain also the one who's aware of the experiencing of fear and pain? Who is aware of this? Where is this awareness taking place?
That awareness is the oneness, the experience of that there is no separation that can come now and then.
There is a differentiation between the thought there is no separation and the experience of oneness. And so if the thought is there, oh, there is no separation. Who is aware of that? Where's that awareness? There's still a step back. It is like the exercise that you're given in the book today. Remember back to a time between 5 and 10 years old. That's a very wonderful experience in your memory. It's so wonderful that you can still pull it up. And if you pull it up, what you experience is an absolute oneness with what's happening. No thought about how it should be or how it could be better or why it's happening. Just a joy and amazement at what's there. Even for the word pain to occur, there has to be duality.
So you say the pain is really when you resist.
The mind says, oh, there's pain and there's not pain. So there's a comparison. So it's not what I'm experiencing now. It's what I'm experiencing now compared to what I've experienced at another time and saying, oh, I prefer the other time. So there's no presence. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. You have the story shown to you where Jesus appears to be tortured on the cross, but there can only be pain there if Jesus is comparing it to another time. If it's just what is, it's what is. There just is this now. Nothing to compare it to, nothing better or worse, just this.
So help me to open up that reality.
One pointer in that is remembering to turn off your mind, to not follow it, to simply be with what is there, and let it be what it is, without resistance, without the thought of changing it, that it should be something else, to let it be what it is, to accept it as the gift from God that it is. Perfection that defies understanding. It goes beyond. The mind comes in and wants to bargain. Okay, God, I can accept this pain if you can tell me why it's here. Making deals, not accepting.
This urge to understand
is a desire to control.
Never have this controlling bitch again.
If I can understand how God's working, then I can do God's job. I don't need God.
There is a oneness.
The oneness.
Yeah, and then it isn't me or God. It is just the will of God. There was a little Ulla thinking she was separated.
But there is no little Ulla.
But I guess it's just something that comes when it comes. Because as soon as I want to do it, then I'm lost.
You can have that intention to notice when resistance to the now is active, when little Ulla is active, so you don't continue in an unconscious, repetitive fashion.
Can really feel how nailed this is with the little Ulla and try to be somebody in this world, try to get some love. Scary to let go of that. It's like a survival thing.
Except for one thing. It's not survival, it's suicide.
What a great misunderstanding.
Where it might start to stop is when there's an awareness of how suicidal it is, how guaranteed it is to bring pain and failure. And so you say, well, it's scary to let go of, but if I hold on to it, there's certainty. I'm going to suffer and have pain. And when you realize the absolute certainty of continuing on that course, then surrendering to another course that offers a possibility that maybe something different can happen becomes easier.
The feeling I can have is there is nothing left to lose.
Or as they say, nothing to lose but your chains.
That's scary enough to take them off. That is the surrender to the will of God.
When there is the realization that every negative emotion you feel is the result of your choosing separation from God. Every one of them comes from choosing that there's a you, a little you separate from God. How long are you going to choose? When you know beyond a doubt that it's your choice to resist the divine of what's being brought and to hold yourself separate and to believe that you're supposed to pick and choose and that there's right and wrong and good and bad and it has to happen the way your mind says, that is a prison. Plagues pain in your body. Every body, your emotional body, psychological body, your physical body. When you notice that, how long are you going to continue to choose that? For some time. It is habit.
I wish it to stop now.
When your eyes are open and say, oh, but this has been my choice. So every time, this is a projection on anyone. You are sending pain and imprisonment to yourself. Every time. No exception.
Can the prayer of help me to surrender to the will of God break that?
Help me realize there's no me. As long as there's a you, there's a separate will.
Surrender to the will of God is to let go of my separate will.
But it's to let go of the separate self.
What is the difference here?
If there is no separate self, then there's no will but God's will. As long as there's a separate self, there's a separate will.
So this prayer comes from the separate will?
If you're saying, help me, who's me? Every prayer comes from separation. Why would you ask God to bring you the perfect thing when God always does that? Oh God, please let there be air today. It is not your job or possibility to choose anything, to be responsible for anything. You're just here to play in the garden with what is there, with what is presented in the now. If it's not part of the now, it doesn't exist. It's not here. Everything that could come into the mind that's part of the now is connected to the little you that doesn't exist. Because if you really look at whatever feels hard, heavy, weighty, confusing, emotionally disturbing in this now is not happening in this now. Maybe 1% of it. It's simply a recognition of that. Is this happening now? No. What is happening now? And when there are these, what you would call negative emotions, they're always connected with something that's not now. You may be conscious of those thoughts right now, in which case you can look at it and say, but is that happening now? Is that part of the now? What's here in the now? But maybe the feeling is there and the mind has no idea what it's coming from. and let the feeling be there.
If this touched your heart, subscribe and receive more light.